Hello, welcome to the Umami Seasoning Day. My name is Ana San Gabriel. I am the Secretariat of the International Glutamate Information Service. So we will have today, as I told you, Professor Takashi Yamamoto, that it's actually at this moment at the Kyoto University in Nara, and he's also the chair of the Umami Information Center, and Kumiko Ninomiya, which has been for a really long time working with Umami through the Umami Information Center and many other platforms. They are very well known, both of them, in the world of umami taste. I guess everybody who has done an important work with umami knows them. And I had the pleasure to collaborate and learn from them, and they have been an inspiration for me for many years. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce the first presentation, Professor Takashi Yamamoto. Please, you can go ahead with your first presentation. So next slide.
My name is Takashi Yamamoto. Thank you very much for inviting me to talk at this webinar. Today, I am going to talk about dual function of MSG. As shown by red, MSG elicits a basic taste called umami, and MSG also elicits flavor-enhancing action. Other related topics are umami may not be innately good, but it becomes good after learning. And lastly, I would like to talk about a background mechanism of flavor-enhancing action. First, I will talk about umami, discovered by Kikunae Ikeda. More than 100 years ago, Professor Kikunae Ikeda at Tokyo Imperial University visited Professor Ostwald's laboratory at Leipzig, Germany to study chemistry. This is a picture taken at that time, and you can see Kikunae Ikeda and Professor Ostwald. During his stay there, Professor Ikeda experienced such foods as tomato, cheese, meat, and asparagus, which were not found at that time in Japan. And he noticed a peculiar taste in those foods, which is different from each of the four basic tastes: sweet, sour, salty, and bitter. After his return to Japan, when he was eating a Japanese traditional food, yudofu, he again noticed the same peculiar taste in yudofu. Yudofu is boiled tofu or bean curd with kombu or seaweed kelp as a seasoning. He soon realized that the peculiar taste came from kombu. According to his original paper, Professor Ikeda describes about the naming of this taste like this. It is the peculiar taste which we feel as umai, meaning brothy, meaty, or savory, arising from fish, meat, and so forth. I propose to call this taste umami for convenience. Then he tried to isolate the essence of umami. He finally isolated 30 grams of glutamic acid from 12 kilograms of kombu. This is his bottle of isolated glutamic acid, now kept at the Ajinomoto Museum. Glutamic acid is acidic because hydrogen ion is here, as shown by blue. Therefore, it has sour taste first, then gradually umami taste appears. He invented a technique of changing glutamic acid to MSG, or monosodium glutamate, by putting sodium ion instead of hydrogen ion. MSG has no longer sour taste. Moreover, MSG has such excellent properties as strong umami taste, readily soluble in water, highly stable, and no humidity absorption. In 1985, the first international symposium on umami was held in Hawaii, which was organized by Professor Kawamura, who was my professor, and Dr. Kerr, who was a director at the Monell Chemical Sciences Center in the US. A number of papers from different fields were presented, and the participants finally agreed that the peculiar taste of MSG is one of the basic tastes, and it is called umami because no equivalent English word had existed. At this symposium, Dr. Shizuko Yamaguchi presented a psychophysical study. As shown here, the taste of MSG is different from the conventional four basic tastes and is similar to the taste of beef, pork, chicken, and some fishes. I'm sorry for the Japanese. And now, specific receptors for umami are identified in the taste bud cells, such as metabotropic glutamate receptors and T1R1, T1R3 heterodimer, as shown here. Receptors for bitter taste and sweet taste are also shown here for comparison. It is now globally well accepted that umami is one of the basic tastes, and the physiological signal of umami is that we are taking amino acids or protein as a source of essential nutrients. This is a summary that MSG elicits umami as one of the basic tastes. The second function of MSG is that it elicits flavor-enhancing action. Babies or infants are honest and show different facial expressions depending on whether the taste is good or bad. This is a typical example. This baby shows different facial expressions to sweet, sour, and bitter stimuli. The facial expression shows that vegetable soup is not good, but when MSG is added to the soup, it becomes palatable, as shown by the baby's smiling face. However, this figure does not show whether the taste of MSG or umami itself is good or not. Concerning this question, Dr. Beecham and Pearson put a small amount of MSG solution into the baby's mouth and found that the taste of MSG was not good at any concentrations tested. But when it is mixed with vegetable soup, it becomes very palatable. This means that the same results were obtained in American babies as well. It is noted here, vegetable soup is not so good, MSG is not so good, but when both are mixed, the mixture becomes delicious. This is a kind of mystery. Another example is shown here. Addition of MSG increases flavor profile of beef consommé in human adults. This is the result from Dr. Shizuko Yamaguchi. Especially, as shown by the highlight areas, flavor characters such as continuity, mouthfulness, impact, mildness, and thickness are increased, and total palatability is also increased. Professor Ikeda already noticed that MSG induces not only a peculiar taste of umami, but it also enhances the flavor or makes food delicious. MSG became commercially available as a seasoning called Ajinomoto. This is a summary. Another function of MSG is flavor-enhancing action. Next topic may be somewhat confusing, I'm afraid. That is, umami may not be innately good, but it will become good after learning. As shown previously, Gary Beecham and Pearson showed that MSG solutions were rejected relative to water in human infants. Dr. Yamaguchi wrote in a paper that umami is not palatable by itself, although it makes a variety of foods palatable. This is the data shown by Dr. Yamaguchi that the taste of MSG or umami is not good at all the concentrations tested. Only the sweet taste of sucrose is good among the basic tastes. But it is true that many people who are accustomed to eating umami-rich food do not reject, but like the umami taste. This may be a result of conditioned taste preference or taste preference learning. Generally speaking, when a taste is associated with pleasantness or good feeling, the taste becomes preferred, even if the taste is initially not good. When MSG is included in the food, both umami taste and palatability come simultaneously during eating the food. Then an association learning between the taste and pleasantness will be acquired easily, indicating that umami taste becomes a good taste. This is a summary. Association learning occurs between umami taste and seasoning effect of MSG. My last topic is a background mechanism of flavor-enhancing action. As I talked in the previous slide, MSG increased flavor when added to beef consommé, with increased continuity, mouthfulness, impact, mildness, and thickness. These are 5 flavor characters enhanced by MSG's seasoning effect. This curve is an image of flavor over food without MSG or before addition of MSG. Addition of MSG increases all these characters, and this is an image of increased flavor, such as increased thickness or increased intensity, increased continuity or increased aftertaste, increased mouthfulness or increased spread, increased mildness or smoothness, and impact or a rapid rise. Background mechanisms why such seasoning effects appear after addition of MSG is not fully studied yet. MSG has 2 functions. One is to induce umami taste, which is one of the basic tastes, and another function is a seasoning effect to enhance flavor characters of food. This seasoning effect comes from cooperation between MSG and some key elements contained in food materials. Umami taste will eventually become good after association learning. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Yamamoto. It was really interesting summary, and we learned from your hypothesis. We can get questions later. So now let's go forward with Dr. Ninomiya's presentation, please.
Hello everyone, I'm Kumiko Ninomiya from Umami Information Center. Today, I am going to talk about discovery of umami and the historical background of applied chemistry in the beginning of 20th century. Kikunae Ikeda was born in Kyoto in 1864. He started learning English when he was only 10 years old, and he studied chemistry in English. An English missionary taught him English. He entered Department of Chemistry in University of Tokyo in 1885. He always had excellent grade and was exempt from tuition. In 1899, Japanese government decided to send him to Germany to study applied chemistry. At that time, Germany was the most advanced country in research activities of chemistry. Great achievements by Kikunae Ikeda was a lifelong effort to introduce physical and applied chemistry in Japan. After the discovery of umami, he continued the research to develop new seasoning MSG and also develop industrial production process of MSG. He was a founder of Japanese Institute of Physics and Chemistry, which is still making advanced researches in Japan. Let me talk about his experiences in Germany. Ikeda studied chemistry under Dr. Wilhelm Ostwald in Leipzig University. Ostwald was a German chemist born in Latvia. In 1909, he received the Nobel Prize in Chemistry for his research in catalysts and reaction kinetics. It is said that he is one of the founders of physical chemistry. After retiring from the University of Leipzig, Ostwald also researched chromatics and devised the Ostwald color system as shown in this slide. This picture showed the Ostwald's family, members of the laboratory and their families, gathered in the garden of Ostwald's house. Kikunae Ikeda is sitting on the far right of the front row. His physique is much smaller than that of German people. Ikeda and Ostwald published 3 papers on catalyst chemistry in the German scientific journals. While studying with Ostwald, Ikeda became keenly aware of the importance of applied chemistry and realized that results of research should be connected to improve the people's life. At that time, Germany was a country where cutting-edge research in applied chemistry had been conducted. In other words, Ikeda learned the latest chemistry and its application during his stay in Germany. This is an example that invention by chemists contributed people's life. In 1866, German chemist Bayer's discovers the method of chemical synthesis and industrial production of the deep blue dye indigo. Originally, indigo has long been used as a dye by extracting the pigment component from fermented leaves of the polygonasty plant. Eventually, a large amount of indigo was used as a dye for work pens for the people working in the gold rush North American mines. The work pens was well received by miners, and now it is called jeans. Ikeda thought in his stay in Germany that there is another taste besides well-known for basic taste, which is common in various foods such as meat, fish, and vegetables. He thought that the taste should be a basic taste. In addition, Ikeda was keenly aware that in order to catch up with Germany, which is a nation of advanced chemistry, it is necessary to improve the nutritional status of the Japanese people. From here, I will introduce the background which led Ikeda to the discovery of umami. This is a picture of Ikeda's family. Ikeda had 3 boys and 3 girls. His wife Tei was the younger sister of Professor Sakurai, who was a teacher of Kikunae when he was a university student. Every day, his wife took soup stock from dried seaweed kombu and cooked meals for the family. Soup stock from dried seaweed kombu is called dashi, which is indispensable material for cooking Japanese cuisine. After returning to Japan from Germany, he realized that the taste which he found in tomato, cheese, asparagus, and meat could be felt particularly clearly in the Japanese soup stock dashi. He tentatively named the taste umami, and the experiment to search for the taste substance was started in 1907. Experiment was more difficult than he initially imagined, and he suspended the study. While interruption of the experiment, he read a thesis by Dr. Hiizu Miyake. Dr. Miyake was the first medical doctor in Japan from the University of Tokyo. His thesis stated that good taste promotes digestion of foods. Ikeda was strongly impressed by this paper, and he restarted the research to confirm the taste ingredient in kombu. After repeating many experiments, he finally succeeded in extracting crystals of key taste component. Based on the investigation of molecular weight and elemental analysis, he confirmed that the molecule was glutamic acid. He obtained 30 grams of glutamic acid crystals from 12 kilograms of kombu. When he carefully put the crystals in his mouth, he felt the sourness at first, but when the sourness disappeared, a strong umami spread throughout in his mouth. Glutamic acid itself was discovered from wheat protein in 1886 by the German chemist Ritthausen. It was named glutamic acid in the sense of an amino acid found from gluten, which is a protein of wheat. After that, Dr. Fischer, an authority on protein and amino acid research in Germany, explained the taste of glutamic acid in a paper as follows. Glutamic acid tastes sour at first, but when that acidity disappears, a very unpleasant taste remains on the tongue. Regarding the taste evaluation of glutamic acid, results were completely different between Fischer and Ikeda. In Japan, the taste of soup stock dashi, which is rich in umami taste of glutamate, is a familiar taste, but for Germans, it is a taste that they have never experienced, and it was conceivable that the taste is not related to the taste of food. Ikeda thought that glutamic acid in kombu is along with other ingredients, and the pH of the soup stock dashi is neutral, and glutamic acid should be in the form of glutamate ion when it is in kombu. In order to make acidic glutamic acid neutral, he decided to make salts of glutamate. He investigated solubility, hygroscopicity, and umami intensity of various salts of glutamate, such as sodium glutamate, potassium glutamate, calcium glutamate, and ammonium glutamate, and he found that sodium glutamate is the ideal substance to be used as a seasoning like salt and sugar. The ideal substance for seasoning is that it's easy to dissolve in water, it doesn't not harden when stored in a bottle, and it has a strong umami taste. Sodium glutamate satisfied all these conditions. To commercialize new seasoning based on the glutamate, Ikeda met Sabrosuke Suzuki. His company was selling iodine extracted from seaweed as a medicine. Suzuki thought that Ikeda was studying pharmaceutical substances. At first, Suzuki did not show much interest because Ikeda's invention was not a pharmaceutical product, but Ikeda's enthusiastic efforts made him decide to produce and sell new seasoning. As a condition for commercialization of the umami seasoning, Suzuki proposed to share a patent on the production process of new seasoning based on glutamate. The patent was certificated on July 25th in 1908. This is why July 25th is Umami Seasoning Day. Ikeda gave a presentation on his discovery of umami in the 8th International Congress of Applied Chemistry, which was held in Chicago in 1912. This slide shows his handwriting manuscript of his presentation. The title of his presentation is On the Taste of the Salt of Glutamic Acid. His manuscript is 9 pages long and described how he discovered umami, how he extracted glutamic acid from kombu, and his strong ambition for developing seasonings to improve people's life. The text on this slide is a part of his presentation. He said that an attentive taster will find out the taste which is different from the 4 well-known tastes. He also said that the taste is usually as faint and overshadowed by other stronger tastes, so it is often recognized it unless the attention is specially directed toward the taste. Unfortunately, most of the people who listened to his presentation were American scientists, and they did not know Japanese cuisine, so Ikeda's enthusiasm did not reach to the audience. It seemed that there was little response. Let's take a look at the history of the world of modern seasoning and instant broth from the end of 19th century to the beginning of 20th century. Left side figure shows amino acids found in Japanese soup stock made from kombu. There are only 2 amino acids, glutamate and aspartate. The taste of kombu soup stock is almost simple umami because these amino acids have umami taste. Right side figure shows amino acids found in chicken soup stock. There are many kinds of amino acids. Taste of chicken soup stock is made up by the mixture of different tastes imparted by different amino acids, including glutamate. It is easy for Japanese people to recognize umami taste in Japanese soup stock, but Western people doesn't have experience to taste simple umami. This is the biggest difference between Japanese and Western style soup stock. In 1909, Dr. Ikeda invented new seasoning MSG, which has the purest umami taste. Bouillon cube was invented by Julius Maggi based on amino acid mixture from hydrolyzed vegetable protein. Both Ikeda and Maggi desired to improve nutritional status in their country through new seasoning that could easily make soup stock, but due to differences in food culture between Japan and Europe, MSG is a seasoning adding only umami taste, and bouillon is an amino acid mixture having complex taste. From the end of 19th century to the beginning of 20th century, many new seasonings were developed, mainly in Europe. For example, Levy's beef extract, bovril, and oxo are paste of concentrated beef extract. They are a mixture of amino acids including glutamate. Maggi sauce was invented by Julius Maggi in 1886, which was made from hydrolyzed vegetable protein. Marmite is an extract of yeast, which was used for beer brewing. It is also a mixture of various amino acids. These seasonings were originally used for mass cooking, and at that time, bovril was used for meals of military in the UK. Oxo Company provided Olympic athletes with oxo soup as a nourishing drink. It was 1909. All these products, except for MSG, are based on the mixture of amino acids, because culture of soup stock in Japan and other countries are quite different from each other. Dr. Lediger, a researcher from Nestle, said in his paper that hydrolysate produces the meaty flavors which are necessary for the manufacture of rapid cooking soups. When bouillon cube was developed by Maggi, it was not known that an important ingredient of these hydrolysates was MSG. These figures show amino acids profile of protein from wheat and soybean. Glutamate is the most abundant amino acids in these proteins. Hydrolysation of these proteins makes mixture of free amino acids with high concentration of glutamate that can be used as a umami-rich seasonings with meaty flavor. This is why hydrolyzed plant protein often used as a seasoning to add umami taste to various food products. Extract of yeast is also a mixture of various amino acids with high concentration of glutamate. It is also often used in food industry to add umami taste to the products. In 1910s, MSG already introduced in the market of US and other Asian countries. In the US, MSG is not only used in American home cooking like meat dishes and soups, but also used by restaurant chefs. They called it gourmet powder. In the 1950s, International Minerals and Chemicals Company started selling MSG under the brand Accent. Accent is still sold in the US market. The world's first MSG symposium was organized in 1948 and 1957 in Chicago by the Food and Container Institute. This is a US military research institute. A lot of data was introduced in the symposia to improve the taste of meals, canned and frozen foods. Improving monotony of foods was to support not only appetite and health, but also the mental condition of soldiers. In the end of the 1960s, there were two alleged problems on MSG. In 1968, a medical doctor, Herman Kwok, sent a letter to the editor of the New England Journal of Medicine. He explained symptoms include numbness at the back of the neck, general weakness and palpitation that some people suffered after eating meals in Chinese restaurants. He speculated that these symptoms might be caused by MSG, cooking wine, or high sodium content in Chinese food. He asked through his letter to medical doctors to have clinical studies for investigating what causes the symptoms. The letter was published in the journal entitled Chinese Restaurant Syndrome to look for doctors who could conduct clinical studies. The letter attracted media and public. The latest large-scale multi-clinical studies published in 2000 concluded that added MSG in food does not cause Chinese restaurant syndrome. In 1969, Dr. Olney reported his concerns that high doses of MSG may adversely affect the brain of a newborn baby. His study used neonatal mice administered with huge amount of MSG, which corresponds to 30 to 240 grams of MSG given to human adult at once. Such extremely high doses of MSG given through injection are not relevant with the way MSG normally consumed as a seasoning. Olney report caused many research groups to examine the neurological effect of MSG. In 1979, Takasaki concluded that dietary MSG do not cause brain damage in the long-term study. In the same year, Partridge, revealed the fact about the blood-brain barrier, which makes it not possible for glutamate in food to cross over into the brain. Smith further concluded that glutamate in the brain is independently kept constant from that in the circulatory system. US FDA and other authorities repeatedly confirmed the safety of MSG. It is said that MSG is the most widely examined food additive in the world. To finish my talk, I would like to tell you MSG in the future. Many researchers have been conducting new research on umami and glutamate since 1980s. Nowadays, research networks are spreading all over the world. In addition to making food delicious, salt reduction effect of MSG and the relationship between umami and satiety, and future research is expected in the fields of nutrition, physiology, and health science. In addition to accumulating and promoting research on MSG and glutamate for over 50 years, communication between researchers and chefs has become popular, and the correct understanding of MSG is spreading not only in academia, but also chefs, dietitians, journalists, media, and so on. Recently, chefs are expected to create tasty, healthy, and sustainable meals, and they need more communication with scientists. Umami Information Center would like to keep communications with those people to disseminate correct understanding of umami and MSG around the world. Lastly, I would like to introduce the recent changes to the notation in dictionary in US. As it is shown in this slide, Merriam-Webster, which is the most reliable and popular dictionary in US, changed the definition of Chinese restaurant syndrome to MSG symptom complex in April this year. The reason why the change of definition is as follows. Number one, many studies have failed to establish a clear link between adverse reactions and the consumption of MSG. Number two, the term Chinese restaurant syndrome has been criticized as misleading and potentially offensive. Number three, it has been already replaced in medical literatures by MSG symptom complex. This is one of great achievements by Umami project being proceeded in Ajinomoto Company. This is my last slide. I would like to keep talking about umami and MSG to extend the communication of yes MSG to the world with confidence. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Takahashi Yamamoto and Kumiko Ninomiya. So now I would like to go to the question sessions. Okay, here we have a challenging question. Can I say the person who makes the question? So for Professor Yamamoto, do you think the taste of MSG via the classical taste pathways has different receptors at the other attributes of MSG such as mouthfeel, thickness, which are generally considered tactile sensations, might be detected by a different class of receptors? So I think the question is, it's going to be taste and the flavor characteristics you were talking about mediated by different receptors. What do you think?
Yes, the umami, the taste of MSG is called umami. So umami is a taste, not a flavor. According to Kikunae Ikeda, umami is a peculiar taste which is different from the conventional four basic tastes. And flavor is a perception coming after integration of sensations from food, such as taste, smell, touch, temperature. Therefore, umami is not a flavor itself, but is one of the components necessary for good flavor. So the receptor for umami is identified, such as metabotropic glutamate receptors and T1R1, T1R3 receptors. So I don't think it's stimulating tactile or temperature or something other sensations than taste. It's only taste effect.
Oh, so you don't know how the tactile or how the other stimuli actually interact with the taste of glutamate itself, right? You think that the flavor comes after you integrate everything, right?
Yes, flavor is integration of sensations of different sensations. So umami is one of the components for a good flavor. It's completely, I think, to my knowledge, it is completely the taste.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think that the question was meant to be if glutamate can actually also activate other receptors that are related to flavor itself. I had the impression that was the question, but we don't know, right? We probably...
Yes, when we put MSG to among the ions or molecules of food materials, then some interaction occurs between MSG and key substances in the food. So there is a possibility after that, after interaction, there is a possibility to stimulate the tactile sensation besides the taste sensation. But it remains to be solved in the future.
Okay, so just for the last, to make sure, so the question is just insisting, do you think that MSG itself can give or provide sensation of thickness? MSG, not yes. Other, but MSG itself can provide sensation of thickness.
Thickness? You mean?
Thick.
Mouthfulness. Okay, mouthfulness.
Yes.
It's after integration of after cooperation or after interaction of MSG with other taste substances, the thickness will come. It's a kind of complicated process.
I see. So you see that there is
the pure MSG only induce taste sensation.
So next question, Kumiko, is you gave us a wonderful review of the history of seasonings and also with Professor Kikunae Ikeda. It was really very nice. Obviously, Emil Fischer had no experience much umami taste. So my question is more like what do you think? It's more an opinion, that question, I guess. What do you think that has been the key to make umami to be so accepted right now among culinary scientists and chefs? And what has been, in your experience, the most important thing that has made umami more understandable and more global? That when Kikunae Ikeda started with the topic, yeah.
So, as I explained in my presentation, that Dr. Ikeda's oral presentation was not so attracted by the audience. The main reason was that at that time, the Japanese cuisine was not popular. No Japanese restaurant in the United States or outside of Japan. So people didn't have any knowledge about Japanese cuisine. And one of the biggest reasons that spread the umami concept through the world was the beginning of the 1980s. The Society for Research on Umami Taste very actively conduct researches on umami in different research fields, and also they try to spread the information through the presentation in the scientific congress. That was the main reason. And after that, I think that the concept of molecular gastronomy was introduced from the European scientists and chefs in 1990s. That was also one of the reasons to introduce the umami concept outside of academia, and chefs and scientists try to explain about the cooking science behind the cooking method. That's why I think that the first dissemination outside of academia was strongly activated by chefs.
Wow. So they are an important part of our, of understanding taste itself, not only research. And so there is a question, I don't know, any one of you both can answer. Is it possible to extract glutamic acid from other foods besides kombu? I think we have done that, right? Probably what it means is chemical. So Professor Kikunae did it from kombu, but if you want to do it from other sources, can you do that?
Yes.
So yeah, you can go ahead, Kumiko.
Yeah. Yes. So Ajinomoto company celebrate 100 years of the discovery of umami, and they produce special products, the MSG from tomato and MSG from kombu and other materials. So it's possible to extract MSG from many food materials other than kombu.
Okay. So, Professor Yamamoto, I only have one question. I was very interested by your concept, your hypothesis of having, the flavor enhancement function, having MSG cooperate with other key elements. What other elements do you think are important?
That the key element, I told in my presentation key elements, but the initial K is also the initial for kokumi or koku. That's the key element, maybe koku substance or kokumi receptors.
Okay.
So casal or something like that may be involved in the enhancing flavor. So, but the mechanism may not be completely solved now. But I think there is some research going on. So, koku research, kokumi study are very important to solve the mechanism, background mechanism.
Actually, your presentation is very interesting because I think you do mention each of the points that are giving us MSG. It's not only about umami, but it's the learning process, the background, the flavor mechanism. So the fact that we have to have the experience, and now you are talking about the kokumi substance. So it's a very complex. It's something very complex that we are feeling. So actually, I think that this is something we can experience ourselves, maybe with vegetable soup. The Umami Information Center has a lot of resources in the homepage where you can see a low umami vegetable soup, and then what happens when you put MSG is really an incredible difference of intensity of saltiness and flavor and balance. And so I would recommend you to actually we are unfortunately running out of time, and I would recommend you to keep sending questions. We might be able to actually keep answering. There are another questions. There is so And is that I'm not sure we have time for the questions, but what I would do is I will gather them and I will send it to you, and we can keep answering through mail. So I wanted to go to the next slide if possible. I want you to be aware that there are a lot of resources that you can find in internet to either find ways to work with umami or glutamate, the recipes, and also safety issues. If somebody asks you questions that you don't know how to answer, from the organization, our glutamate organization, from the glutamate association, MSG Facts. Also, Ajinomoto North America has prepared this page, Why Use MSG, that it has quite very easy to understand information, and of course the Umami Information Center that is very, very good for finding tips for cooking. Next slide, please. The next slide is just for you to know how the organizations like the FDA and the Mayo Clinic are answering questions about MSG safety, and you will see that there is a recognition that MSG is safe, and even though people might claim that they might have sensitivity, so how you can address these issues. And finally, the next slide, please. I don't have time to go in very detail, but we have been working with Umaje Asana, the Japanese member of the IGIS. They have been doing some project with chefs that do recipes and design recipes to enhance umami. And this is one. We will prepare another one that we will share with you. And these are recipes where you can use MSG and also brings up the umaminess of the ingredients that you are using in your food, and also have a little bit of Japanese taste, so that you can try to see what is the modern Japanese cuisine by very young culinary scientists in Japan. So that would be, I think, something you can enjoy. So no much time left. Before we leave, I wanted to really thank the two panelists that have been so understandable. The technology is new for most of us, and we have to learn many new things, but we did it. Without the support that I had inside of all the members of IGIS, I couldn't be able to have done this. Good health for everybody. We are living very strange times. Take care of your health. Thank you very much to everyone.